Okay, here's my audience. Imagine how you would feel if you were born addicted to drugs. Project Prevention is an organization that pays women addicted to drugs cash for them to become sterilized or receive long-term birth control. I've done a large amount of research on this organization, and I personally know someone who took participation in it. Statistically, the women that are offered sterilization or long-term birth control for money have a history of drug abuse, have failed various methods of treatment, and are leery of another pregnancy themselves. First and foremost, women who are offered sterilization or long-term birth control must have a documented history of drug abuse. This is to ensure that people that are not drug addicts do not come in and become sterilized or receive long-term birth control just for the money. If addicts are able to come in and prove that they have had a history of drug abuse, they will undoubtedly be offered $300 for sterilization and $100 to receive long-term birth control. William Lee Adams from Time magazine states, prospective participants must mail in arrest records or official letters from social workers to confirm that they have a drug problem. Adams goes into detail about how Project Prevention has worked with 3,371 addicts in just the United States alone and is starting to travel to other countries. Adams states she also advertises her program by driving around the U.S. in a 30-foot motorhome plastered with photos of a dead infant, a razor blade, a line of crack, and a pacifier, along with the message, "Some things just don't belong together." This procedure that is offered to drug-addicted women has proven to save so many unborn children's lives. Now that I have explained how it is determined if someone is fit for these procedures, I will describe how the women who receive sterilization or long-term birth control have failed various methods of treatment. Before resorting to sterilization or long-term birth control, it is imperative that women have tried different ways to get off drugs so they do not regret not being able to have children later on in life. For example, many women who choose to become sterilized or receive long-term birth control have tried options such as rehab, drug classes, or just trying to quit cold turkey, but nothing has been successful. BBC Magazine quoted Barbara Harris saying, "I do a survey on everyone that comes into the program. Most of them started using drugs when they were 11 through 13 years old, and all of them have been in and out of drug programs, in and out, in and out. So people tell me that I should be focusing on drug treatment, not birth control, but drug treatment is just a gamble, you know? Women go in there and they get off drugs, they go back on the drugs, but that doesn't seem to keep them from getting pregnant. Addiction is a hard disease to cure, and many spend their entire lives fighting the battle. Saving an innocent child's life from being born into addiction can be as simple as a woman becoming sterilized or receiving long-term birth control." Now that I have explained why women resort to sterilization and long-term birth control, I will describe how these women are leery of another pregnancy. Many of these women have had several children, all born addicted to drugs. Their babies have severe health problems, and most suffer from brain damage. The worst part about babies being addicted to drugs is that they are fighting an ongoing battle for the rest of their life. Unfortunately, there is no cure for a baby addicted to drugs. They are born with no choice other than being a drug addict at birth. A woman named Denise Lewis wrote a letter to Barbara Harris explaining how she benefited from Project Protection's advertising and program. Lewis states, "I was pregnant not only on one occasion, but 2 times. I continued to turn tricks and smoke dope, drink rut-got wine, and sleep on the sidewalk. I would go on dope runs lasting for days at a time. I couldn't eat. I stayed awake at least 3 to 4 days at a time on a regular basis." What kind of life is that for a pregnant woman? Lewis then goes back on to describe what her children's life are like now, saying, "The children have been in the custody of their grandmother since birth, and their lives have been very, very hard. They have been through special education, constant expulsions from school due to behavioral difficulties and impulse control issues. One child has been through a CAT scan, and the neurologists have confirmed that part of his brain does not exist. This child forgets everything. The other child is now in a group home because she cannot behave in an appropriate manner. Sadly, 12 years later, these children are still fighting for their lives as a result of their birth mother's drug addiction. The child's life is what matters in this situation, not the addict's. The addict has a choice to not have babies, whereas the baby does not have a choice in being born addicted to drugs. Thus, sterilization and long-term birth control helps decrease the number of children with mental and physical disabilities due to drug exposure in utero. I have described how women who receive sterilization or long-term birth control have a history of drug abuse, failed various methods of treatment, and are leery of another pregnancy.
That's 1-888-302-7225.
Hundreds of thousands of babies are born every year addicted to drugs. For more information on our cash incentive birth control program, call CRACK at 1-888-30-CRACK. Again, that's 1-888-302-7225.
A lifelong battle can be avoided by using Project Protection's incentive of cash for sterilization or long-term birth control. Children's lives matter, for they are the future of this world.